Welcome to Life Project Management School. It enables life skills and basic project management to empower the people, especially students. My name is Srinivas Reddy. In this video, we will learn the Scrum Framework along with a sprint case study. So the Scrum is founded on empirical process control. It means by observation, experimentation, and experience, a solution evolves as knowledge is gained, and a decision making is based on what is known at a certain point. So the three pillars of empiricism are three pillars of Scrum as well. That is transparency, inspection, adaptation. So what is Scrum? As mentioned, Scrum is neither based on any science nor any maths, but it's about common sense, evolving out of observation, experience, and experimentation. So Scrum is an agile, lightweight process. It uses iterative incremental practices. It has a simple implementation, and Scrum embraces adaptive empirical systems development. Scrum is not restricted to software development projects. There is a myth in the industry. Scrum is exclusively for software development. But it is evident from the industry that the Scrum can be applied to different domains. There are a number of case studies. So Scrum embraces the opposite of the waterfall approach, that is SDLC. And there is a say in the industry, Scrum is simple to understand, but difficult to master. I agree to some extent. So Scrum in a nutshell, I just try to put it in simple form, short form, so that we remember. 33355. 3 roles, 3 artifacts, 3 pillars, 5 events or ceremonies, and 5 values. We will learn them in detail. And every event is time boxed. That is a significance of Scrum. Generally, the Scrum or the sprint is 2 to 4 weeks. Based on that, the other events time box will be adjusted. So the 3 pillars of Scrum, I just put in short form time: transparency, inspection, adaptation. The 5 values of Scrum: courage. Scrum team members have courage to do the right thing and work on tough problems. Focus. Everyone focuses on work of the sprint and the goals of the Scrum team. Commitment. People personally commit to achieving the goals of the Scrum team. Respect. Scrum team members respect each other to be capable, independent people. Openness. The Scrum team and its stakeholders agree to be open about all the work and the challenges with performing the work. So successful use of Scrum depends on people becoming more proficient in living these 5 values. You know, every organization will have its fundamental values, and it's very important to be aligned and grow. So 3 main roles of Scrum. One is product owner, who decides what to do and why. And product owner is responsible for the product vision and delivering value. He manages the product backlog end to end. The product owner is one person, not a committee. The crack product owner, the crack PO. I just put short form, crack. Crack is nothing but collaborative, representative, authorized, committed, and knowledgeable. And the second role is Scrum Master, who focus on how to work better. And the Scrum Master coach the team on Scrum, and he works with the stakeholders to remove any impediments and improve team velocity. The Scrum Master is a servant leader for the Scrum team, as well as to the product owner, is a servant leader for the organization as well. So the rich Scrum Master, rich means responsible, influential, collaborative, and humble. That's a short form to understand, remember. So third role is team. The team who do the work and software development. So the team will have the skills to deliver the product, and the team will decide how to achieve each product increment. So the teamwork makes the dream work. There's a say. So the team is bold team. A bold means belongingness, openness, listening, and discipline. So here begins the story. The Scrum project starts with defining product vision. So the product vision is a quick summary supporting communication of the product, and this vision statement must articulate the goals of the product, and it should communicate how your product supports the company's or organizational strategies. And the vision statement becomes a guiding light that we refer to throughout the project. So here, Abhinav is assigned as the product owner and Vishwa as a Scrum Master of a new shopping website development project. Just for the sake of case study, we have these two roles, Abhinav as a product owner and Vishwa as a Scrum Master. So the product vision, if you are able to answer or define 5 questions, you will be able to produce right product vision. The 5 questions are: who is going to buy the product? Who is the target customer? Which customer needs will be product address? Which product attributes are critical to satisfy the needs selected and therefore critical for the success of the product? How does the product compare against existing products from competitors as well as from the same company? What are the product's unique selling points, USP? And what is the target time frame and budget to develop and launch the product? So if you're able to answer these 5 questions, you will have the product vision. The product vision example, as Abhinav is the product owner, developed the product vision, stating, for a mid-sized company's products marketing and sales department, who needs online shopping website? Online service that provides customer sales requests, sales tracking, lead generation, product delivery, marketing and sales representative support features that improve marketing, sales, and customer relations at critical touchpoints. Unlike other service portals, our shopping website provides very capable services at a customer fingertips. This is the product vision of the case study. So before we get into product backlog, we need to understand the estimation methods or techniques. There are 7 AGILE estimation methods techniques I try to put here. I'm not going in detail, but just for your high level understanding: planning worker, t-shirt sizes, dot voting, the bucket system, large, uncertain or small, affinity mapping, ordering method. There are a number of other estimation methods in the industry, but for your understanding, I just put these 7 important AGILE estimation methods for your understanding. So the product backlog, we talked about product vision. The product backlog evolves from the product vision, which is ordered list of everything that might be needed in the product. The product backlog is the single source of requirement for any changes to be made to the product. Product backlog contains all the features, functions, requirements, enhancements, and fixes that constitute the changes to be made to the product in future releases. It ideally expressed such that each item has value to the customers, and the product owner is responsible for the product backlog, including its content, availability, and ordering. It is not a specification in a different form, but the product backlog is a dynamic and constantly changes. Product backlog items have the attributes of the description, order, estimate, and value. Each item is sorted into a ranked list with the highest business value at the top. If you see in the picture on the left, high priority items. Themes are at high level stories, and which are been broken down into epics, then stories. Stories will be further broken down into tasks to perform, execute as part of the sprints. So the high priority stories will be put on the top, and the low priority stories will be below of your product backlog. The high priority stories will have all the details, and the low priority stories we can assume will continue to evolve. So the product backlog is a living artifact, as mentioned. It dynamically changes. As long as the product exists in the market, the product backlog also exists. Abhinav, the product owner, writes down the most important user cases and discusses them with the architects, customer representatives, and other stakeholders. After collecting the high-level user cases and requirements, he writes them into the Scrum product backlog. We have the example, and indicates an estimation and prioritization session with the architects and development team. As a result of this session, all the items in the Scrum product backlog have an initial rough estimation and a prioritization. There is a technique to prioritize MOSCO. This is a short form. MOSCO means must have, should have, could have, was not. You need to segregate them into which of these story user cases, stories must have, should have, could have, or was not. So the project shopping website, if you take example priority 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, product backlog items, database creation, login page, category page, so and so forth. User stories 9, 15, 23 have given priority. This is user story numbers. And user story, as an operations engineer, I want to be able to store all customer information so that I can serve to the customers. And the story points that comes from how much you pick as part of your sprint, and estimated hours 240. That's one example. Yeah. So before you get into the sprint, there is a inception, there is a sprint zero, and there is a checklist to understand what are the key things to be considered before starting the first sprint. As a team, we need to have product owner, scrum master, initial team, at least one developer, engineer, and estimated team size required to meet target dates. Estimated team size is nothing but velocity, right? We will understand that. And as a product, high-level business case, vision, high-level architecture, story writing, estimations, prioritization, target release date, target velocity. And as tools and environments, team room, team space, task board, tools and technologies to be used, CI infrastructure, that is DevOps, CI, CD, like continuous delivery and continuous development, testing and demo environments, and test data. This is a checklist one should consider before start with the sprint. So the sprint, as mentioned, a sprint is a time box of 1 month or less, that's 2 to 4 weeks. And the sprint consists of sprint planning, daily scrums, sprint review, sprint retrospective, sprint work itself. So a sprint is not shortened or lengthened, but fixed length time box as decided prior to get into the sprint. The goal is to create usable and potentially releasable product increment. If you're not able to develop any releasable product, then the sprint is failed or the scrum is failed. So the secret of getting ahead is getting started. The secret of getting started is breaking your complex, overwhelming tasks into small, manageable tasks, and then start on the first one. That's is about sprint 0 to sprint 1, 2, 3. Subsequently, we get into break it down your product backlog items into number of sprints depending on the velocity and other factors. So sprint with a case study. So during the sprint, a scope may be clarified and renegotiated between the product owner and development team as more is learned. Any scrum without working product at the end of the sprint is failed scrum. No changes are made that would endanger the sprint goal. Quality goals do not decrease. So if you take the example, database creation, login page, then priority is 1, 2, and sprint 1, we have taken database creation from the backlog items to sprint backlog. Sprint planning. Sprint goal is an objective set for the sprint that can be met through the implementation of product backlog. As mentioned, for the sprint planning, you need to have team capacity, product backlog, business conditions, current product, technology, so that you can have your sprint prioritization and sprint planning. Part of your sprint prioritization, we analyze, evaluate product backlog, and select the sprint goal. As part of sprint planning, decide how to achieve sprint goals, that is design. Create sprint backlog with number of tasks from product backlog items. Those are user stories, features, and estimate the sprint backlog in hours, so that we have sprint goal and sprint backlog. Basically, the sprint planning is divided into two parts. First one being owned by product owner, part 2 being owned by development team. Part 1 is all about what. Product owner presents sprint goal and top priority product backlog items, PBIs, product backlog items, and development teams size it in story points. At the end of part 1, the development team commits to subset of reviewed product backlog items. In part 2, what? Part 1 is what needs to be developed. Part 2 is how to achieve the development of the product. So the development team breaks down committed product backlog items into tasks with estimates. So the sprint planning, Abhinav as a product owner starts to break down the high level requirements into smaller grained user stories, and Vishwa as a scrum master facilitates this meeting, the sprint planning meeting. So during the sprint planning meeting, the product owner Abhinav presents the scrum product backlog items from the highest priority to the lowest, and the team clarifies open questions, and for each item the team discusses if they have enough capacity required, how, and if everything else needed is available. After this discussion, they commit to complete the stories. In this case, we have taken 9 and 5 to the first sprint. After sprint planning meeting, the scrum master of the team calls the team to define the details of how the committed items are going to be implemented. The resulting tasks are written down on the cards at the prepared sprint task board. Now everyone of the scrum team selects a task to work on. So in general co-located teams, there is a manual sprint task board, or there are tools like Jira to track, to manage your work. As example, as part of the case study for sprint, we have taken the priority 1 item, database creation, which in turn is broken down into number of tasks and estimated with the efforts, and will be assigned to the respective development team. So the sprint backlog contains user stories with the highest priority from the product backlog. Amount of user stories picked to sprint backlog depends on development team velocity and capacity. For each user story, what and task how are added by the development team and estimated usually by hours. Individuals sign up for work of their own choosing. The estimated work remaining is updated daily. The development team members can add, delete, or change tasks within the sprint backlog. So the sprint backlog is the set of product backlog items selected for the sprint, plus a plan for delivering the product increment and realizing the sprint goal. So this sprint, similar to the product backlog, this sprint backlog as a living artifact. So if you see the example from the product backlog items, there are number of estimated hours 240 for database creation, which are assigned to the team, development team, developer 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, depending on the size. Once we have Scrum and sprint planning, we focus on daily Scrum, the daily Scrum meeting, stand-up meetings. Daily, same time, 15 minutes duration maximum, it's time boxed as mentioned, and if possible stand-up, but you see that in conditions, it could be sit down, if not possible to stand up. Yeah. Always answer 3 questions. What did I do yesterday? What will I do today? What hinders me in achieving my work? Don't accept discussions or details. Postpone additional discussions after the daily meeting. So you need to take up any extended questions offline in separate meetings, so that you can manage your daily scrums effectively and efficiently. So from the case study, in the morning, the development team gets together for their daily Scrum meeting. Everyone gives a short statement, what has been achieved so far, updates the estimation of remaining hours on the cards of the sprint taskboard, tells what he or she is planning to do today, and tells if there are any impediments that hinders him to continue his work. As example, today one of the team member tells that he has problems because he needs a new license for one of the software tools he is using. Vishwa, he is Scrum Master, checks if other team members have the same problem and says that he will take care of that after the meeting. After 15 minutes, everyone goes back to work. After the meeting, the Scrum Master updates the sprint burndown. Then he informs the Abhinav, the product owner, to call the software vendor of the tool, orders licenses, and forwards them to the people that need them. That's how the impediments will be sorted in efficient, effective manner. So the product increment, it is potentially releasable increment of product functionality. The sum of all the product backlog items completed during sprint and the value of the increments of all previous sprints. Each sprint will produce some usable, releasable product. So that's all part of product increment. Every sprint will add value. Yeah. So it should meet team's definition of done. So the increment, potentially shippable increment, is the sum of all the product backlog items completed during a sprint and all previous sprints. If you see from the case study, increment 1 comes from sprint 1, 2, 3, and increment 2 is increment 3, yeah, from a number of user stories and number of sprints. This is another important area, acceptance criteria and definition done. So after sprint, part of product increment, before we accept or deliver the product, we need to ensure it's been developed as per the acceptance criteria. And the definition of done is a list of requirements that a user story must adhere to for the team to say it's completed. A definition done is defined by development team. Well, acceptance criteria for a user story consists of set of test scenarios that are to be met to confirm that the software is working as expected. So the difference between these two, definition of done is common for all the user stories, whereas the acceptance criteria is applicable to specific user stories. Acceptance criteria of each user story will be different based on the requirements of the user story. So in other words, both definition of done and acceptance criteria must be met in order to complete the user story. the product increment is not considered to be complete unless both these two lists are done. So we need to define two aspects of definition of done: completion criteria and acceptance criteria. So the sprint review. The sprint review is held at the end of the sprint. Once the sprint is completed, the product owner is responsible to conduct the sprint review, to inspect the increment and adopt the product backlog if needed. So the team presents what it accomplished during the sprint. Typically takes the form of a demo. They present the product as demo of new features or underlying architecture. So this is the final day of the sprint, first sprint. Like as they complete the sprint, the product owner Abhinav has invited the team of the sprint review meeting. The team has prepared a mission with the current software implementation. Scrum product owner sits in front of the mission and checks if the implementation meets his expectations and if the features are documented as required. At the end of the review session, he concludes stories 9 and 15 are finished as expected. These are the stories which are picked up part of the sprint fun. Yeah. And sprint retrospective. It's about, again, inspect how the last sprint went with regards to people, relations, process, and tools. And it's conducted by Vishwa, who is a Scrum Master in this case. He invites the system architects to give more details, the team, entire team. Actually, the participants are team, product owner, Scrum Master. In the afternoon, the team gets together for the sprint retrospective meeting and discusses what went well during the sprint and what could be improved. One of the feedback is that the team has a feeling that they do not know enough about the overall system architecture. So Vishwa, as a Scrum Master, takes the task to invite the system architect to give a more detailed introduction so that it clarifies. Sprint retrospective is all about continuous improvement, continuous learning. So along with these sprints, we need to have the monitoring system to monitor the progress. A burn down or burn up charts are used in Scrum. These are graphical representation of work left to do versus time. If you see in the graphical representation, there are points, user points versus sprints. You can have different, sometimes user stories versus number of hours. And you have the linear line, which is blue, estimated burn down, that is a planned, and the red, the real burn down, and yellow is the velocity, the team velocity, which we have discussed. Yeah. And similarly, another example, team velocity, what is the total efforts versus iterations. Yeah. It shows what is the work remaining. So the burn down charts are a linear and ideal burn down line. The burn down using earned value. The burn up shows used hours, the average velocity needed to reach the goal, the current total of estimated hours. These are the points which you can figure out from your burn down chart. How to interpret the combination of cause to discover? Velocity too low, estimation is astray, dramatic changes during sprint, impediments affecting the team. These are the points which you can figure out from your burn down charts, burn up or down charts. So the burn up and burn down charts are used to forecast the likely velocity with which the project deliverable will be delivered in the upcoming sprints releases, thereby enabling effective planning. So this chart shows the amount of remaining task, remaining work. So we have been talking velocity and velocity charts. Velocity is how much product backlog efforts a team can handle in one sprint. It's nothing but a number of team members and their availability over the duration, over the period of sprint, considering the holidays, considering the vacations of the people and organization. So estimated using the historical data, that's will take average velocity from the past history. And receipts with new team composition or sprint duration. That's how we we figure out what is the team velocity for the particular sprint. If you see the graphical view, story points versus sprints. The sprint 0, the 21 story points. The sprint 0, we know we need not to deliver any product here. And subsequent sprint 1, 2, we will ensure there is a deliverable, shippable product. So here comes a Scrum Summary. You are set to go to the next sprint. We have spoken about sprint 1 along with a case study, and you are set to go to the next sprint. Abhinav is a Scrum product owner, adds new items to the Scrum product backlog based on his recent customer meetings. Moreover, he adds additional items for the refactoring of story 8. Abhinav then invites the team for the sprint planning meeting for sprint 2. The team discusses and commits to stories with the guidance of Vishwa, the Scrum Master, and the second sprint begins. So that is the Scrum Framework and sprint case study. Hope you enjoyed, hope you learned. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe to Life Project Management School to learn more about projects, life projects. Thank you so much.